What's going on, friends and degens? How are we all doing today? Hope everyone's doing well. It is, let's see, what do we got going on here? It's Friday, the 29th. Happy to be here. Hope everyone's having a grand old time. We're going to talk about a little bit of ARK Invest stuff, some stuff from, thanks. Hey, thanks, Attorney. I appreciate it, man. Just try to kind of wing some stuff on the fly. So in this particular case, today's intro was in. Can you hear me now? Get a 1 in chat if you can hear me now. Mic check, mic check. Can I get a 1 in chat? Perfect. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. So let me repeat myself. I don't know where it cut out on that.
Perfect.
So
All right, thanks,
today's
guys.
intro was
Appreciate
inspired by
So let me repeat myself. I
Zakk
don't know where it
Wylde,
cut out on
Mama, I'm Coming Home.
on that.
So
All right, thanks,
today's
guys.
intro was
Killer
inspired
guitar player,
by-
played
So, let
famously
me repeat
for
myself.
Zakk
Ozzy's
Wylde.
band on some of this stuff. And for the first 2 albums he did with Ozzy, which were what was it? No Rest for the Wicked and Double Audio. All right, stand by, guys. Apologies for the audio issue. Let's see what we got going on today. Double audio. Interesting. No. How about now? It's still getting double audio? Give me a hand here, chat. Yeah, I probably had to run in the background so I could keep track of shit. All right, perfect. All right, thanks, Mike. All right, guys, back on the road here, so I appreciate you bearing with me. Audio issues aside, see, I got the guitar playing side of things, the live production. It's a slightly intricate setup because I try to patch my guitar rig into my audio streaming rig and do everything. So I appreciate the feedback, guys. All right, one more time from the top. Today's intro was inspired then by a guitar player named Zakk Wylde, famously played for Ozzy Osbourne's band. First 2 albums, No Rest for the Wicked, No More Tears. In particular, today's intro was a loose nod towards the Mama, I'm Coming Home track. The dude's just this monstrous kind of combination of blues, southern rock, blazing pentatonics. This is back when he was a clean-shaven young man instead of the Viking bodybuilder biker dude that he looks like today. Yeah, just this crazy guitar playing on a Les Paul through cranked Marshalls. Yeah. Blade Builder Mike knows what's up. Black Label Society. I also really like some of his other independent solo albums. So go check out the Book of Shadows albums and the Pride and Glory album. Pride and Glory album's killer on that. It's like a just cranked up southern rock. And like Zakk is currently on tour with Pantera, filling in the incredibly large shoes of his old friend Dimebag Darrell. So you can catch those guys on tour. Yeah, I'm a big Zakk fan on that. And quick nod to Zakk on this one. The way he came about developing his style was actually really smart and kind of reductionist. He's like, all right, the tapping thing, that's kind of Eddie Van Halen. The sweep arpeggio thing, that's Yngwie Malmsteen. What's left? Well, I like country guitar. And I like pentatonics and these kind of squealy Billy Gibbons pinch harmonic things. So I'll go down that path. And hey, he made a career out of it. And there's nobody that sounds quite like him. Anyway, cool. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Let me pull up my screen here. We'll get this one rolling on some different content today. So appreciate everyone hopping in for what I'm hoping is everyone's lunch break. I'll try to keep it interesting here. So as we are working our way through the bull market, it is roughly 20-something odd days from the halving. Again, depending on whose calendars you're using, you'll see some different dates floating around. By this calendar, it's April 29th. I think the current range is like as fast as April 18th, as late as April 25th, give or take. I've seen some calls for actually April 20th. I'm sure the 420 group would love that. And we'll see what we got going on there. Cruising along here, one of the things I did want to call out is this thread on Coinfessions. Side note, if you don't follow Coinfessions, there's sometimes some really tragic comedic stories that you can find on there. In this case, this poster was indicating that they had 40 Bitcoins in the early days and lost the hardware wallet to a house fire. So two different things jump out at me. Part one, I've talked about this on Boogie's channel as I talk about some different aspects of with Boogie about like OPSEC, InfoSec, physical security, what have you. In this particular case, your coins are still in your wallet. You may have lost access to your wallet because you don't have your seed phrase, but it's still in your wallet. So long as you've got the seed phrase, you can ultimately recover those coins in principle on that one. Secondarily is a lot of times when it comes to house fires, yeah, certainly fire is destructive. What gets a number of people when it comes to document storage and asset and item storage is the fact that their fireproof box is not necessarily waterproof. So the fire might not get you. It might be the liquids that get into your paper and things like that, or liquids into your electronics. So, okay, sure. If you got the time, effort, funds, please, go ahead and stamp your keys into something metal that you have that is safely guarded in a safe location and will withstand a house fire. If you are doing paper, I suggest laminating it and putting it into a fireproof, waterproof box. Again, a lot of things get destroyed, not by the fire, but when the fire department shows up and sprays the shit out of everything. All right, cruising right along here. What else we got going on today? I do have some other related ARK Invest news that I wanted to get to, but one of my topics I wanted to talk about today was Coinbase. And it's kind of a Coinbase world in a lot of ways, at least here in the North American region, and we're all living in it. So according to Coinbase, roughly 52 million USA residents own crypto. Friendly reminder, not your keys, not your coins. So their estimates by their own surveys and polling indicate that it's 52 million plus USA residents hold crypto in some way, shape, or form. Sure, I like Coinbase as an onboarding and offboarding tool. I don't like to leave my coins sitting on there for any extended period of time. I will move them to other wallets that are directly under my control on that front. But keep that number in mind here, 52 million, because if you looked at the official numbers for voters in 2020, official numbers, it was about 154.6 million voters in 2020. So breaking it down quick and dirty, that's basically 1/3 of people who voted in the US elections in 2020 would hold crypto in some way, shape, or form. So potentially as a voting bloc, the crypto community has tremendous power and influence. Please vote like a pirate in this upcoming election. That is a personal political stance. If we want certain things to turn around here in the North American region, I think there's only really one way to do that. So, all right, coming right along here, as far as aspects of this, one of the things that Coinbase recently announced is their Base Migrate tool. It's migrating ERC20 tokens to Base Network. This one caught my attention on this front. They're at Base Migrate over on Twitter. Go check them out on this front. And they have tools and telegrams and the like, but mainly it's the tool that will allow the migration of different ERC related assets over to the Base network. So their tool automates a number of steps in the process. They submit metadata to blockchain explorers and data aggregators, and that's automated according to them. They've tried to make it as simple as possible, and then there's like a little help section over here. And so that is over here on base.org and base-migrate.xyz. And so what I am speculating and have been kind of wondering, keeping my eye upon for a little bit of time now, is we know in the L2 space, some different things are kind of fragmented a little bit. And so I'm over here on DeFi Llama. on the roll-up section for L2s related, especially for EVM related L2s. There's Arbitrum, and there's kind of Arbitrum and literally everybody else. And so we know Base is an optimism-based network. There's optimism over here. I'm not as familiar with Blast. I know they had that whole Munchables thing that Zakk XBT and some other folks were able to run that money down and find the person and basically convince or coerce, depending on whatever tactics they might have used, to send that money back. But my point here is Arbitrum, huge. Base, solid chunk of the pie in the grand scheme of things, to the tune of a little bit over $1 billion in TVL on this thing. So we thought about this and we talked about, okay, what are some of the normie indicators? Is Coinbase, like the Coinbase app, number one in the store? You know, are your Uber drivers and Airbnb hosts and randoms and, you know, family members you haven't heard from or friends you haven't heard from forever and a day reaching out to you and saying, hey, tell me about this crypto stuff. And like, well, to me, that's kind of a proximate normie indicator. And I recognize certain viewers of this channel and certain folks in the community, we're going to be a little bit more of an advanced user in the grand scheme of things. So if I strip that away for a second and say, what are normies doing? Well, they're using these things and some of the apps there to manage their assets and buy into assets. Sad to say, I think a huge number of people won't necessarily custody their own tokens. And if you're watching this, please take it upon yourself to learn best practices. If it's not in a wallet under your control, it's not really yours. It's just on loan to you, or it's an IOU in the grand scheme of things by some other organization. But coming back around to this, why do I think potentially Coinbase is primed to at least make major inroads and take a further substantial dent out of this versus some of the other players in the space? Well, when I look at this chart, one of the things that jumps out at me is potentially the TVL across, again, these are roll-up chains, never mind getting into stuff like Ethereum, Phantom, Solana, and other solutions on this. Strictly on an L2 perspective, look at how fractured aspects of the liquidity are. So Arbitrum's got the vast majority of it. Everyone else is playing for what's left. Coinbase has got about $1 billion. So threefold increase on the Arbitrum side. To me, there's a few different ways you can look at this. One of this, I look at it from a sort of like a competitive standpoint. Base has room to grow and take away market share. So in turn, Coinbase. They've got an easy-to-use app. Coinbase, in order to make it more normie-friendly, it needs to be a slick front end, easy-to-use front end. And so if Coinbase has got an easy-to-use front end, then it reduces headaches around asset management. So when I also look at some of the other growth potential on this, they've got a migration tool for aspects of ERC20s to come over to the Base network. 80% of the crypto global trading in crypto happens outside the US. And according to some of the research I've read by Coinbase themselves, they've thought that the growth will faster growth will happen outside the US than inside the US. And that could be because of rules and regulations. Also, you got to keep in mind that there are huge portions of the world where there are no traditional banking systems, no financial systems. So there's no place to necessarily go get a mortgage or a loan or even open up a bank account. But everyone's got these around the world. So it's an aspect for me to get into a financial system without needing an intermediary or middleman. So again, on that front, 80% of the global trading happens outside the US. Coinbase won. They expanded their reach over the last year into 38 different countries, originally just starting in the US. They now offer some sort of staking solution in 110 different countries or more. USDC through Coinbase and Circle is now available in 110 different countries. They've launched on and off ramps in 130 plus countries. This is like all over the last year or so. They've onboarded 100 different institutions and surpassed over $30 billion worth of trading volume in 2023. So I think there's a compelling argument here that Coinbase is going to figure out aspects of the normie management problem. Yes, it'll be ultimately custodian. How many people care? So think about it. Like we used to, for anyone who's old enough, used to go down to the video store and rent movies. Then it was, okay, I could get DVDs or buy them on like Super Tuesdays or Release Tuesdays for relatively cheap. So why rent movies anymore? Now people use Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. People don't even bother with physical media. It's convenient, even though you don't necessarily have copies of it for your own viewing pleasure. As long as I have the perception it's readily accessible, I tend to not care in a lot of ways. So additionally, some other interesting factoids for you is altcoins accounted for roughly 65% of the 2023 Coinbase transaction revenues in cryptos. Again, altcoins, 65% of the transaction revenues. Interestingly enough, if you look at their percentage of trading volume, it was about 66%. And furthermore, if you factor out the tether aspect of it, it's about 55%. Bulk of volume when it comes to moving stuff around, to no surprise, is in altcoins in the grand scheme of things. Basically, Ethereum and everything on down. Sure, some aspects of those might be stables. Other aspects of it may be the latest hot meme coin. To me, there's a lot of indicators that indicate, one, Coinbase with Base has a lot of room for overall growth and increase in their total value locked. Number two is they are working, producing solutions to solve the normie issue on aspects of this. So some food for thought out there. Keep your eyes and ears open when it comes to Coinbase and some other things. The second major topic I wanted to talk about today was just some updated information from the crew over at ARK Invest. I'm generally a fan of at least the idea and the analysis of Cathie Wood's team over there. They are obviously not right 100% of the time. Hell, a lot of times they are wrong, I think, in the actual market performance. However, I believe in general they are correct in their conclusions. I think they are just too early. They are too far ahead. They're too fast in a lot of ways. They may not always be right. I have a feeling history will bear them out to have always eventually been right. So food for thought on that one. All right, gang, let's see what we got going on the main report I wanted to pull up and share with y'all today. So let me just quickly reshare some stuff over here. All right. So recently, ARK Invest released a secondary white paper. I've previously covered their big ideas report for a lot of the crypto and blockchain stuff. But in this particular case, they have this updated white paper, which is the platforms of innovation. And they're calling out aspects of areas of convergence and economic growth. I'm going to skip through some of the intro here. I encourage everyone to read it on this one. And they called out several areas of convergence: public blockchains, multi-omics sequencing, artificial intelligence, energy storage, and robotics. And of course, for most of the viewers here passing through, it's really going to be public blockchain, which is of the most interest. Artificial intelligence, I think by the end of today's show, you're also going to be interested in some of the subsections, particularly related to energy storage. And I'll kind of like slap it in between artificial intelligence, robotics. We'll call it neural networks on this stuff. Anyway, let me skip down to page 6 because this is where we start getting into some of the projected economic growth data. So they are highlighting that some of these areas where these different sectors converge, it will have multiplicative effects. You know, it might be like 1.1%, 1.01%, but it's going to enhance the rate of growth on this. And so what they have here is a logarithmic scale of global GDP growth based on historic data. And you can see the GDP growth from going from 100,000 BC up till, let's say, call it 2023. Okay, 0.037%, so a fraction of a percent, till we get up to a third of a percent, up through 3%, rinse, repeat. The argument here is that this intersection of converging technology is actually going to outpace the current consensus forecast. They're calling for global real GDP growth of something to the effect of 170 trillion, 6.8% growth, $20,000 dollars per capita by 2030, and then growing upwards to 10.7 at $51,000 per capita, 470 trillion by 2040 on this one. Interesting in the sense that they're showing an potential and argumentatively an outpacing of the current consensus forecast. So again, in page 7 here, they continue to highlight aspects of this. They're calling it technologically enabled disruptive innovation, calling for 33% higher real capita in real terms beyond consensus expectations for 2030. It is March 29th, 2024. 5 years and roughly 6 months is going to fly by pretty quickly when it comes to this. Cruising along here, we're going to skip down over to the next section here, which will be page 9 that I wanted to highlight on this stuff. Let me zoom this in a little bit further for y'all on this. So can we experience another steep change in growth? AKA, what is some of the different convergence factors? They have some trend lines and some plotted points out here for us. Again, you can see that the consensus here is that we're leveling out in some aspect of an S-curve, and ARK takes a little bit of a disagreement on this. So what they're showing is, in ARK's view, this is a super exponential trend, which will continue as sustained, if not turbocharged, by convergence of these disruptive and innovative technologies. Again, there's that quick chart there. Their argument is it's generally going to be more up and to the right compared to leveling out on this stuff. All right, over here on page 10, we've got some more pretty pictures, graphs, and nice colors, since we're a bunch of smooth brain, simple jacks around these parts. What I want to call out on this chart is it starts largely with a steam engine, and they're talking about some estimated economic impacts of general purpose technologies on this stuff. And you can see they got some different categories here highlighted, like, okay, railroads, then we get to telephones and combustion engines, synthetics, things start to level off. And then, oh shit, as you look into 2020, there's a huge explosion in AI, cloud computing, intelligent devices. To a lesser extent, you see digital wallets, smart contracts, and the like. Again, argument here is we've basically laid foundational technologies through aspects of energy infrastructure interconnectedness. And so we are building up higher, more advanced levels of the pyramid. So as they're looking at this, you can see that the data outlines some of the estimated economic impacts. And this is where they really start to get into them highlighting neural networks. They're arguing that in so many different ways, neural networks, which will be, let's say, a related and offshoot of artificial intelligence, is going to accelerate and catalyze a range of technological offerings. Particularly, they're also calling for economic impact of adaptive robots, autonomous mobility devices. So think about things like self-driving taxis, self-driving DoorDash and the like. Stuff is going to get mighty spicy here over the next decade. And we'll get into some of their AI forecasts here too. And AI software will compare favorably with a steam engine. And again, highlighting here, neural networks and AI software could, and from the rest of their report, I'll tell you that largely anticipate/expect to impact every facet of global activity over the next decade. I'm going to skip down to page 12 here for some of the more spicy stuff. Multiple technological waves are being pulled into resonance and will stack one atop the other. On this basis, technological growth will beget technological growth, so positive feedback loop. Good things lead to more good things, lead to more good things. And we believe the world will experience an unprecedented transformation extending through this decade and beyond. And this, again, highlights some of the different overlaps and convergent technologies that they're calling for. So you can see public blockchain has made one of their key categories. And then within that sphere, crypto, smart contracts, and digital wallets. And you can see there's an overlap in our favorite Venn diagram here, intelligent devices, next-gen cloud, and there's this fringe element here where they're expecting a certain level of intersection. In this particular case, they outline some of these different technologies. And so within these subgroups of artificial intelligence, you have intelligent devices. You can see reusable rockets overlaps with robotics and AI rinse repeat. They call out 14 technologies that they believe fulfill some general purpose technological criteria. Then they just highlight a few of them. There's generally a steep learning curve, and then all of a sudden stuff gets way easier or costs a lot less. Each one of these technologies cuts across economic sectors and has some level of mass market appeal. It's also a launch pad, and we in crypto love our launch pads for different projects on this, and new complementary technologies. All right. Hey, Hex Monkey, good to see you, man. We'll have to catch up soon. Angel, thanks for the support. All right, so good news. Each of these technologies are investable today. Many of us have no expectation to benefit or profit from the work of others. We just happen to contribute and sacrifice funds for sort of technological projects. But they're investable today, and capital markets tend to focus on individual technologies like artificial intelligence because it's in the headlines. In the case of Kathy's team, they're arguing that acceleration in one technology leads to acceleration in all. In this case, again, they're going to continue to highlight that it's neural networks and AI that will likely have the broadest reach and broadest spread on this stuff. Down here, there's arguing cryptocurrency catalyzes advances in battery systems. That's a really interesting concept and argument. We'll get to that in a few pages, but park that one in the back of your brain on this stuff. All right. Cruising right along, they get into some different color-coded nodes. by major innovation platform. Again, it's about a 45-page document. It's got a lot of pretty pictures for the smooth brains in the audience. So if you just want to flip through like a picture book, you can totally do that and get the gist of it. Hopefully you walk out of today's stream with some better understanding of what they got. And over here, they've got a visual representation of degrees to which they're interconnected and overlap. So you can see intelligent devices has a solid but smaller overlap with digital wallets, but digital wallets, cryptocurrencies, and smart contracts, that's our space, right? But you can also see over here on the left-hand side, they've got some related tangents back to advanced battery technology, which in turn fuels autonomous mobility, rinse, repeat. So think of it like a spider web. You pluck on one strand, everything's going to start vibrating and it's all kind of tied together on this stuff. All right, let me skip over to page 16, take a quick sip of my coffee, brought to you today by Dunkin' Donuts Black Iced Coffee. And I've shown this particular image before when I did the Big Ideas report from ARK earlier this year. You can see, though, basically the deeper the shade of the color, the higher the convergence score on this. So you can see smart contracts really intersects with cryptocurrencies. Smart contracts has a decent overlap with potentially renewable rockets or the like. So again, there's some aspect of it. Deeper color means more convergence between the different categories is what it comes down to. All right. Further highlighting this, neural networks score a bit more on the aggregate measure score. So it has the highest degree of convergence with intelligent devices. So some of you have the machines that listen to you when you talk to them, particularly the ones run by Google and the ones run by Amazon. You say their name and they do the thing. So in this case, they have the highest degree of convergence with intelligent devices. And I know there are some folks here who have assorted degrees of Internet of Things and home automation and the like. I can yell at my digital assistant. Her name starts with the A, and she'll kick on one of my robot vacuums, which helps me clean this place up after my dog. I do personally limit the amount of integration I do with that stuff, but I'm not going to lie, it's convenient on that front. Anyway, so there's a degree of convergence with intelligent devices, next-gen cloud, adaptive robotics, and autonomous mobility system. And then highlighting where some of these different strongest connections are stemming from neural networks. And you can see neural networks back to smart contracts. So neural networks have the strongest convergence score. That an acceleration network in neural networks would have the most meaningful impact. Basically, everything kind of stems from neural networks, and artificial intelligence is the basic argument. So stuff like batteries, adaptive robots, self-driving, and like reusable rockets, which would benefit from it. We can basically create more intelligent devices, improve the Internet of Things, have mesh networks, smartphones, some other stuff. Anyway, let me kind of skim on down here. So one of the things that jumped out at me in this report is the number of expected years until an AGI, artificial general intelligence systems, becomes available. And in this case, they're calling it general artificial intelligence. I know some folks were tuning into Charlie's stream earlier this week about stuff like Ajax and Fetch and Ocean and the potential merger that's getting voted on, I think next week, this coming week, it might be even as early as that, for a potential merger on that front. We all have seen things like, hell, I mean, my intro thumbnails, I use Midjourney to generate a number of my graphics on that front. I know people have messed around with ChatGPT. Stuff is getting real interesting. In fact, when I went to set up my stream today for StreamYard, they now give me the opportunity and ability to potentially generate a thumbnail through artificial intelligence directly in StreamYard. Literally, that's brand new. Previously, I've gone to Midjourney and generated my graphic and then just applied it. Now I can do it through StreamYard. Still like my Midjourney, though. It's been very entertaining. Anyway, so looking at the whole notion of artificial intelligence here, I think Elon's even been saying potentially as early as next year, and then by 2030, it'll be way smarter than humanity. So I'll just kind of quickly talk through this scale. Over here, previously, back in 2019, the argument was prior to ChatGPT-3, the argument was artificial general intelligence in 80 years. Then GPT-3 released, oh shit, it's 50 years away. Improvement, improvement, improvement. We see some stuff from Google. Oh shit, now it's 18 years. ChatGPT-4 launched. We're 8 years away. So on current trend, this is what's forecasted versus the error in their forecast. If their forecast more recently is correct through assorted inputs, it's 2030. If they are as wrong as they continue to be, we are looking at artificial general intelligence within the next 2 years or so. So start building those EMPs in case you got to fight Terminators. All right. Moving right along here. More stuff on artificial general intelligence, a bunch of pretty pictures. There's some aspects here about precision medicine, which is why ARK usually captures my attention. I know for folks in the Richard Hart, Hex, Pulse community, a number of folks are interested in longevity research. So too am I. Go check out Aubrey de Grey if you're not familiar with some of his work. Really insightful stuff over there. Anyway, here's some of the nuts and bolts of today's element here. So cryptocurrency as a catalyst for advanced battery systems, convergence score mid. Why might advanced battery systems be of interest? Well, you see stuff in the news about, Bitcoin mining or cryptocurrency mining and the like, and how it's a drain on energy grids and energy systems. That I question aspects of that. However, if you look at the scope of this report, large-scale renewable energy and battery systems in a virtuous cycle should increase the security of the Bitcoin blockchain. So through using stuff like solar, wind, geothermal power, you could potentially have Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin validators running off of renewable energy, and it becomes more economically viable or economically attractive as Bitcoin appreciates in value. And I hope over time to see aspects of that embraced in certain altcoin solutions like the Pulse chain solution and just in general other crypto solutions as well. I think it's good. I think it's good for humanity personally. So in this case, ARK's got some open source models on battery systems, and they're talking about how solar and energy storage related to solar struggles to provide more than 40% of an end user's energy needs before the economics begin to erode. So along those lines, potentially we would have to maximize aspects of renewable energy in order to factor in friction in the system and loss of efficiency in the system to produce enough power. However, in this case, larger systems over time can generate more energy than the grid can handle. So why not use it for something like cryptocurrency or Bitcoin mining, which becomes more viable once you have aspects of an internet connection. So excess energy goes from a waste to a profit center. Great for aspects of the world, perhaps, where they have limited financial and economic inroads. And they can help secure aspects of the network and improve things on that front. So in this case, incorporating a Bitcoin miner allows the use of larger battery and solar systems to operate economically. A system without Bitcoin mining can't provide more than 4% of the energy needs economically, but by converting it to a Bitcoin miner and or validator, secure the network without raising the levelized cost of electricity it generates on effectively a local level. So according to their modeling, if you had a supersized system, solar powered, with a battery 5 times larger than your base need or your base case, you could meet nearly 100% of the end user energy demands economically. So you mine Bitcoin, store Bitcoin, get to sell Bitcoin for a profit, loan it, what have you, and like. So Bitcoin's not valuable enough yet for this type of system scaling, at least when they put together this research. Fast forward to, give it a few months and let's see what we got going on that front. So along those lines, too, as they skip through a bunch of pages in this report, here we go. Cool. They get into aspects of the expectation of progress. They're on trend 2030. Global money supply will grow in tandem with GDP, and crypto will account for 10% of the total money supply. In this particular case, they're saying a lot of the growth will come from institutional investment in the wealthy elite, so to speak. And here's one that jumped out at me: corporate and nation state treasuries. To me, this is potentially an early indicator for upcoming end of current cycle. Look, you got MicroStrategies and Reddit also announced that they hold cryptocurrency. One of the things I am watching for is things like corporate treasuries. If more corporate treasuries start, or corporate institutions are announcing they're holding crypto assets in their treasuries, that to me is going to signal further, certainly business world adoption, potentially early indicator that we're reaching peak. Is this time different? I don't know, but it's something I'm definitely listening for as we continue to evolve through the market. They're also projecting, ARK that is, that by 2030, the cryptocurrency sector will take 40% of the market from gold on that. So what, gold's like I think it's 10 trillion market cap. So at least 6 trillion by 2030. We'll have to see how that plays out. I'm thinking Is that a correct number? I think it's 10 trillion in gold on that. So yeah, 6 trillion taken from gold, let's say consistently solidly by 2030. Also here in remittances, and they are really going into the future, gazing at that crystal ball, looking out at 2040. Again, calling out part of the ethos of crypto is the elimination of counterparty risk and further adoption where traditional financial systems in geographies with broken money systems or are otherwise underserved. Also calling for efficiencies in a more unified digital currency to be available globally. Skipping down to smart contracts, if smart contracts continue to be adopted, then roughly 1% of the gross take from tokenized assets on decentralized protocols will be less than a third of the fees traditional financial institutions interact. It's a whole lot of word salad for saying it's way cheaper to do stuff through smart contracts as they come online and get, let's say, there's going to be some bugs and some weird stuff that ultimately happens, but it'll be substantially cheaper for different companies or individuals to interact through smart contracts than is to work through a traditional financial system. Application protocols, in turn, will be paid out to incentivize network participants and will account for 75% of gross decentralized protocol revenues. So in this case, application protocols will account for 75% of revenues and will be paid out to end users or those who partake in the relevant protocol and contract. Fast forward to 2040, most contracts will be open source protocols to enable and verify digital scarcity and proof of ownership. I know a lot of us talk about NFTs and GameFi solutions, and also real world assets. So again, by 2040, the expectation here is most contracts will have moved to some form of smart contract. So imagine replacing your legal contract with a smart contract on chain, which would reduce counterparty risk, reduce notions or potentials for fraud and like. Traditional financial intermediaries will have dwindled. So imagine being able to go get a mortgage on your house purely through DeFi. I mean, if you got enough collateral, you could do that today, but imagine that being common for the average person in North America or globally. In this case, decentralized protocols will enable some lighter balance sheets and business models enabled by digital asset ownership. I know some folks have been in the crypto mindset fight clubs for certain things. So if you know about those fight clubs, then you know there are very interesting things going on in fight clubs. And we talk about things like digital asset ownership. I know there's a lot of chatter right now about Illuvium and other things, other games coming up over this cycle. So what if you have those NFTs and it's like, hey, I've got this, this cool piece of gear, this cool piece of clothing that follows me everywhere I go for any game ever, or I want to sell that off so again, further business models enabled by digital asset ownership, or I want to tokenize my business and have part of the Hex Monkey consulting firm and I owned 0.5% of that and I get some level of residuals on revenues on that front. So really exciting stuff on that front. And one of my consistent supporters, hey, Paul, good to see you, man. Thanks for tuning in today. All right, so digital wallets on this front. Final one on this major section is 90% of smartphone users rely on digital wallets to some degree. And so earlier I mentioned, you think about portions of the unbanked world. Well, now if they have a smartphone, they can get access to a MetaMask or a Rabby wallet or any number of other wallets that allow them to interact with DeFi. So in this case, digital wallets will serve as the front end for more than half of meaningful financial functions. ARK is predicting that by 2030. So again, what if I want to get a mortgage? What if I want to get a car loan? What if I want to make credit card payments? Do I even want a credit card? Maybe I'm just taking loans against my collateral on that instead of I am my own bank. And they also call it an interesting model here where individuals may have lead generation fees of 5 to 20% for delivering customers to traditional institutions by 2030 and capturing 3 to 10% of facilitation fees for e-commerce activity through different online digital wallet platforms. By 2040, the argument here is nearly every person can transmit and receive money instantly. And this will be above and beyond stuff like PayPal and Venmo. This would be through smart contracts, blockchain, digital wallet, crypto on this front. We'll have disrupted retail banking relationships. And digital wallets will serve as distribution platforms for a variety of digital services. What I thought was interesting, they're calling for ride hailing, so your Ubers, your Lyfts, to e-commerce, and are secure repositories for digital health and other sensitive data. Side note, I know Richard's been a little critical of the notion of putting certain health records on chain. As somebody who's worked in the industry for almost 2 decades, I think there are potential benefits that ultimately would arise. However, the hard part is proof of identity without potentially doxing yourself. And I know stuff like ZK proofs and the like will help solve those issues. I'm generally leaning more towards putting it on chain with the provision it needs to be safe and anonymous, and I need to have control over who has access to my data when, and I need to not be jeopardized if I ever somehow lose control of that wallet or control of those keys. That's a harder ask. So until those things are solved, then yes, I agree. Don't put this stuff on chain. Anyway, cruising right along, traditional financial service institutions and payment processing chains have given way to internet-enabled digital wallets for the most economic activity. Let me skip down a page. Let's see here, 42 on this stuff. All right, so here's some, again, more pretty pictures and colors and like. So currently, the consensus market is somewhere in the round, what are we? We're sitting close to 2 to 3 trillion today. I didn't look at today's numbers, but the forecast is just tremendous growth in the cryptocurrency, smart contract, and digital wallet space, where it'll be 35,000 billion, which is what, 35 trillion? Too many zeros for me today. Not enough coffee on that front. So if they continue on that trend, that points towards, let's say, strictly through the cryptocurrency space, about 20 to 25 trillion, let's say crypto plus smart contract, direct crypto plus smart contract, 25 trillion crypto market value by 2030. So we are in a massive growth sector for this. And once again, ARK highlighting stuff like converging technologies, causing resonance positive feedback loops. And this kind of alignment will construct different S-curves which feed into each other with technological acceleration. So one of the things here in this report that they kind of mentioned in passing, and I know some folks have been asking about on some other streams, would be things like nodes and validators. And like, so we talked a little bit about solar energy and how that might make certain things more economically viable or feasible. What if you had Bitcoin or cryptocurrency validator nodes seeded through global orbit, through Starlink, or solar technology and battery packs, and just increases in computational power and the like? Now you put a node on everyone's smartphone, or even 5%, 2%, 1% of the world have nodes on their phones for stuff like pulse chain validator nodes, Bitcoin validator nodes. So you got stuff seeded through the sky, battery packs, renewable energy, and like, I'm thinking the future's looking pretty bright. I look forward to seeing some aspects of ongoing technological convergence. So reusable rockets. You can seed the sky, seed orbit with more satellites, more validator nodes. Shit, let's start slinging them into deep space just so, crypto lasts forever. And there's always a node out there to further web it together. Or aspects of blockchain, because it's not, we're here for the tech and mad gains. Let's be serious on that front. But we're clearly in a very disruptive portion of the overall future technology space. We'll see if we get AGI in the next 2 years. That's it, man. So happy to jump on today. Hopefully you found this a little informative and educational over today's lunch break. You know how to find me. I'm on socials at Mr. Angry Twinkie. If you're in any of the Telegram groups, feel free to hit me up. If anyone wants to talk guitar playing, crypto, tech, AI, medicine, I'm always game. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Hope everyone has a fantastic Friday, great weekend. Oh, I almost forgot. Let me give you guys a sneak preview of something we got coming up this weekend before I play myself off stage here. I am supposedly streaming tomorrow at 1 p.m. with some of the guys from DGen Roundtable and Mr. Axis Alive himself, tentatively scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. I'd say it's like 99.9998% confidence on that. I just got to swap a few messages here and lock everything up. One of the things I want to talk about tomorrow with certainly the DRT team as well as Axis is just about some of the mistakes I made coming out of 2021, 2022, and some of the stuff I have learned since then. So I've mentioned before, I look at some fundamental analysis. I have a great network of colleagues and friends and professional acquaintances in the crypto space that assist with aspects of charting. I generally look at support resistance, but for my daytime hustle, I do look at a lot of large bodies of medical data and information systems. So I do okay with seeing certain patterns on this stuff and like diving into some of the numbers and math behind it. So what I want to show you today is just a little sneak peek of some of the stuff I'm eyeballing on this. And what I'm trying to do is get a better sense of when it is time to leave the dance floor on this stuff. So what I'm showing here, let me just blow this up in a larger fashion. What we got going on here is the others chart. And I've been coming back to this because, look, Bitcoin will make some solid gains. And we know there's a lot of institutional adoption. If and when Ethereum gets their ETF, which I think is inevitable in all honesty, then we will likely see those gains outpace Bitcoin. So what I'm looking at is some of the other aspects of crypto. In this case, this chart, others, if you want to pull it up in TradingView and kind of draw your own doodles on it, it's the others chart. What you're looking for, there are two different ones. Nate over at DGen Roundtable has been playing with the others dominance chart. I've just been looking at dollar amounts. So it's the total market cap minus the top 10. Why do I like that? It immediately factors out Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, Solana, and a few other heavy hitters in the market. So this to me is a better indicator of the altcoin market once you start stepping away from Ethereum and some stables on this front. So we can see we're on an overall trend upward and to the right. In this particular case, what I did is I mapped out the halving dates to peak altcoin market. Again, in this case, crypto market cap minus top 10. It's about 550 odd days, 546. Potentially, if that time-based pattern holds true, then we're looking at potentially needing to leave the dance floor out to October 2025. I know there's a lot of chatter in the space right now about potentially being in a left translated cycle. What we are looking at or looking for would be areas of confluence and like. So I kind of had in my brain maybe, like once you start getting up around 600, 800 million on the other side of things, I might want to start a drip feed or perhaps even more aggressively based on other factors in the market, volume, higher highs, lower highs, higher lows, lower lows, depending on how the market is shaping up and trending on that front. Anyway, I'm going to talk more about this with Axis, Nate. I think Zenith and Agent J are going to join us too. Should be a really fun conversation, just talking about things we're looking for, potential exit indicators, stuff we screwed up on previously. I learned more from my mistakes than I ever did from getting something right personally. So hopefully people can learn from some of my pains and some of other folks' pains and walk away this cycle with stacks of cash to do whatever it is going to be best for them, their own, and their lives. All right. Let me shut up a little bit on that aspect. All right. At Mr. Angry Twinkie on Twitter, YouTube, Telegram. I'm on Instagram. I haven't posted Jack. I got to dice some stuff up in his shorts and get over there. I'm over there as well on Instagram. Feel free to hit me up if you ever want to have a conversation. Happy Friday, everyone. Have a great weekend. I will see y'all back here, same place, 1 p.m. Eastern, Saturday on that. Thanks all.